Yeah.
As some readings I've done, they've said that this distance of yourself with Buddhism of your emotions, you just observe it
Yeah.
and you let it go.
Yeah.
And you don't say that they don't exist, like what you said, anger or frustration, but you have to just look at it because it's not you, it's just that.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't exist, and then you wash and you let it go.
Ah, so
But how? And so this observing part, how do you just? What is observing? I don't know. You know.
oh, what is observing? Well, this is the thing. It is like you're not. That's why I think were you here last month?
No, I'm sorry.
Ah.
I didn't make it. Maybe you answered that question already.
Actually, we did talk about this
Yeah.
in detail. This is what we call the mindfulness practice. 4 foundations of mindfulness practice. The body, feeling, the emotion, and the mental objects. How we can observe all these 4 together at the simultaneous, together. So now, to observe this, you need to practice meditation. It doesn't happen in one day. You need to keep practicing it every day. When you keep practicing, then you realize, first, that's why at the beginning I said of this talk, how Buddha started practicing meditation, and then how he experienced a level of mental purity. A mental purity in the sense of, like mind is free from restlessness, agitation, what blocks the mind to see the things as they really are. There are five things, 5 hindrances. We call them hindrances because these things hinder your mind. They don't let your mind see. These 5 things, they just agitate the mind. So you need to make your mind free from these 5 hindrances. These are known as, in fact, this is what we call the emotional thing. These are emotions. Sensual desire, anger or aversion, sleep and lethargy, restlessness and agitation, worries, and doubt. When you make your mind free from these 5 emotions, and when your mind is stable and clear, there you go to this jhana experience. Okay? Then you go to second level of mental purity. Then you go deeper and deeper. There you begin to see, whatever it is, it could be something that's annoying you, or it could be something that makes you liking something, hang on to these things, then you realize, all these are happening due to the necessary causes and conditions, right? And then you also begin to see all these causes and conditions are not permanent. They just come and go, come and go, come and go. This is another the very reason why Buddha said, Sabban anicca. Everything is impermanent. Everything changes. Everything changes. The assumption of the imaginary self, imaginary world, comes into being when you fail to see this. When you see that, or when you say everything exists, or this thing exists, that thing exists, it is a work of this emotional mind. And because this emotional mind failed to see the impermanent nature of things. Right? Impermanent nature of the things. So it is the thinking mind that makes you see that, now my mind is, that thinking mind is calm, is stable. All there is just things are happening based on necessary causes and conditions. Everything. Let's say if you're, to make it very simple for you, sometimes I'm pretty sure when you're alone, you smile, you laugh. Why? Because at that moment, you're assuming something that had already passed, right? Or that made you laugh and smile and happy, So you're assuming a kind of permanent thing there. But then, if you can understand this impermanent nature, because it is also in meditation, we call it, there are levels of wisdom. There are 9 levels of wisdom. The very first level of wisdom is called the wisdom of seeing the arising and passing. Arising and passing. Now what do you can observe this right here within yourself. Let's say I'm sweating at this moment. Why? David made it hot. Right? Now if I go out, I'm cold, my sweat is gone. Right? So then, if we can see this, arising and passing of things, and the cause and condition of things, and the hetu phala, and then there's nothing to hang on to, there's nothing to worry about, and then you can easily let go. So then, in the second, there is another one that Buddha also talks about the cessation of the suffering. That is the when this particular cause and condition disappears, that thing disappears.
Bhante, can I endeavor to summarize the first piece for my own sake, and perhaps it'll add clarification for others as well?
Yeah.
So, beginning with the first, depending on ignorance, then arises activity. So, my misperceiving of reality, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Because an enlightened person is going to act as well. Like Buddha did many actions through the course of his life, but that wasn't a cause for his suffering, because he'd already. But we could say that because I'm acting without seeing clearly the way things are, for example, I have identification with myself as a permanent entity, and then I do various actions. They may be good actions or bad actions, but out of having this identity and out of having this perception of the world that is not clear, then inevitably I act, I do various things, which creates sankhara, which is another, many people may not have heard that word, but translation I understand as kind of mental impression.
Yeah, mental impression,
so,
and then mentally you construct.
Yeah, mental construct, so people can understand that as like, these things happen to you when you're a child, and then through the course of your adolescence, things keep happening, and they create mental impressions. In the world of psychology, you could say it's your unconscious or whatever. So based on my activities, I experience things, I have impressions come into my mind. Then with these impressions create my consciousness. I mean, a Buddha has consciousness too, but it says, based on these impressions arises consciousness, but this is my ego consciousness or separate consciousness, conditioned consciousness. So I start seeing the world in this way because in the past people were telling me that it was because of me that therefore they were sweating and suffering. And then I just give me or whatever. My mother said this about me, and therefore I always think that when people. So there's these kinds of based on my impressions, I perceive reality, and then dependent on consciousness that has been created through all these impressions and experience, then arises the perception of mind and matter, of my mental consciousness, or of how I see the world and plants and things in the world. And then, based on mind and matter, there can be the 6 sense spheres, like I can see, because these are physical processes, I can see, hear, taste, and so on. Based on this, then I have contact with, like, a person, a plant, a thing. And based on the contact, it creates sensation. I see someone I like, I see someone I don't like, or something I like, a sound I love or I don't like, and then that creates the feeling, positive or negative or neutral. And then based on the feeling, I have craving, like I don't like this, I do like this. And then based on craving, I cling to this, either to push it away or to keep it. And then based on my clinging, then again I act, I want more of that, I have to go here and get that some more ice cream like that, or whatever it is. And then, so these are my actions, and then based on my actions, I create the fuel that keeps me moving through life in terms of, but it's in rebirth consciousness, it's also not only rebirth in next life, but it's the rebirth into the next moment. That's conditioned consciousness as well. It's not just next life. And so I keep, there are successive moments of me, of this conditioned consciousness arising that is still ignorant. And then based on that, there's the possibility of birth in the next moment or in the next life. As soon as there's birth, for example, physical birth, then there's all these others, decay, suffering, disease, and so on.
Yeah. That's the whole summary of this.
Okay.
So what we have to do is to remove all sufferings, to stop all the sufferings. So what we have to understand is like to remove this ignorance. Now this ignorance is nothing else but the emotional mind that makes us to think, this exists, that exists, right? This and that, everything. So now, if we can develop the thinking mind, rational thinking is what is here the opposite of ignorance is called the wisdom, right? Wisdom. Now, with that wisdom means the seeing things as they really are. Now, when you see, this is what's causing this. This is what's causing that. Now, after seeing this, if you can remove those causes or conditions, then the other thing begins to disappear.
The wheel goes the opposite
That's
direction.
right. So this is exactly what Buddha did during his meditation practice. So that's why all meditation masters emphasize on meditation. You don't have to really, I know today maybe people are practicing meditation just to get a temporary experience of the relief from their daily problems like stress and tension, depression, anxiety, this and that. But that is byproduct of the meditation practice. When you meditate, and of course it's going to help you calm your mind, you're going to be free from daily stress and tension, but it doesn't mean you're completely free. So what you have to do is to keep practicing. That's why there is another form of meditation practice called Vipassana Bhavana, Vipassana meditation. That's why we encourage people to meditate longer. to go to 10 days retreat. Like, when you go for a 10 days retreat, then you realize many things. Of course, at the beginning, you're going to struggle. You struggle a lot. Then you're going to suffer from meditation. At the beginning, people suffer big. And even some people can't handle it anymore. They stop and come back. They say that's too much. But you need to have patience. You need to be very patient with yourself. And then, as you keep, just as in retreats, they emphasize, even I always emphasize people just to watch the breath. All you have to do, just watch the breath and see, along with ingoing breath, observe the sensations coming into being. Along with the outgoing breath, watch the sensations coming into being. Right? And just, and also when a thought pops up in the mind, see how this thought is creating a lot of sensations, or particular emotion. When you're angry, how this anger is creating a lot of sensation, physically, mentally, right? And observe all this. When you keep observing all this, then there comes a moment you get this, aha, now I get it. I understand it.
If there is no self, who or what observes? Who or what sees the impermanence? Who suffers?
Who suffers, no?
There is nothing there.
There's nothing
So what
there.
suffers?
What is permanent?
What is permanent?
Everything we see, I think it's the same question.
Yeah.
Everything we see in a sense is impermanent. What is it that's permanent?
There is nothing permanent. Permanent thing comes with the assumption of the self. There's no observer, but observation is. There is no sufferer, but the suffering is.
That's difficult.
Yeah. So that's difficult. Yeah. It's like, that's why that's why you need to, like, it's like during this summer, okay? I'm pretty sure in this region, Kitchener-Waterloo, there are some beautiful rivers, no? Just sit by the river and observe the water. Observe the water. In the 6th century BCE, there was a philosopher, Greek philosopher by the name Heraclitus, who said, a man cannot step into the same river twice. The man thinks that he is stepping into the same river. He does that with the assumption of I am. But in reality, you cannot step into the same river twice. Why? It's not the same water. It's gone. So, in the same way, that's why the assumption of self, how it comes into being, this is called the upadana, grasping. The grasping comes from this emotional reaction to the environment. Right? And this self is coming into being from this clinging. But once you let go clinging, it is a way of letting go of the self. when you let go of the self, then there is no birth of sickness, aging, death, suffering, stress, anxiety, depression, and all this. Now, the whole mass of suffering has come into being because of this imaginary self. But in reality, is there an I? To understand this, we have to have a good understanding about the psychology. Now, if you are interested in the neuroscience, neuroscientists are explaining now this beautifully. They now understand where this feeling called the self, image of self, is coming from. It is the work of this part of the brain called the Velcro brain. Have you heard about Velcro brain? No. Velcro brain is the very primitive brain, undeveloped, untrained, uninstructed brain, very primitive. This assumption of self is coming from that brain, because it is that Velcro brain is also, you can understand that as the emotional brain. The emotional brain that makes you assume things like I am this, I am that. I am. But the thinking brain, it is known also in the neuroscience, the Teflon brain. The Teflon brain says, my friend, although you assume this self, I know there's no self. There's no such a person called I. Right? And I tell you, the Teflon brain is giving a warning to the Velcro brain. My friend, I tell you now, if you assume such a self, you're going to suffer. You're going to be in pain. So, but the emotional brain, again, Velcro brain thinks or disregards his warning. You say whatever, but I'm going to assume that. And because of that today people are, suffering from everything.
Bhante, I just wanted to make a quick point because it is Easter weekend, so some people may have dinners, etc.
Oh yeah.
We're at 3:20 now. In the schedule that I published, it spoke of the talk being an hour, and then we have meditation and question and answer. I think we have a format that's happening right now of integrated talk with question and answer.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do this for about another 20 minutes so people can clarify as we go along. And then we can spend the last 20 minutes before doing the meditation. And hopefully you'll have a chance to review the cessation of suffering, that reverse link before we finish.
Yeah.